Oh my God. Oh my God, I swear it's like I have 4 sets of freaking teeth in my mouth. Okay, please bear with me. Reuben had warned him. Reuben had warned him. Oh my God, what the? Have you watched the last chapter, chapter 9? Because some stuff happened, like things got steamy in a closet in a public place. If you haven't seen it yet, then definitely go back right now because I'm about to drop some spoilers. Chapter 9 was kind of crazy. It was kind of crazy to read out loud to a camera, but I got through it, and I think it was kind of unexpected, because she's really kind of hating on Ben right now. Kind of a love-hate relationship, or like a crush-hate relationship right now. And she went there with him, and it was pretty hot. I thought it was hot. I hope you thought it was hot. But anyways, it'll be really interesting to see where they're at in chapter 10, because it still ended up kind of on the edge there. They haven't even gone on a date yet. I'm not even sure she wants to go on a date with him, or even if Reuben wants to go on a date with Neesa. I mean, he's pursuing her, but for what? So let's move on to chapter 10 and let's see what's going to happen next. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, as well as hit the little bell icon. That way you'll be notified as soon as the next chapter goes up. And I will see you there. Chapter 10, Reuben's Perspective. The nicest thing Reuben could say about Jeff Schaefer after 2 months spent working on his case was he'd lived long enough to see the guy's more agreeable side. And since their relationship had finally come to an end, Reuben was in a giving mood. He had crossed professional lines to get the information he needed and knew that if Schaefer pursued further legal action, he had compromised his credibility as a PI. Lucky for him, this case would never see a court of law. Reuben picked up his pace as he approached Rick's Tavern on Culver Boulevard. The restaurant sat mostly empty at 4:15. He could use the privacy if Schaefer's unpredictable behavior got out of hand. He rounded the corner of the pub's empty patio and spotted his client at the bar, sipping on a soda. Jerking his head, Reuben motioned for the tech geek to join him at a table near the front windows. They settled in, and Reuben waited for the waitress to come by and take his drink order. Once they were alone, he didn't waste any time. Reuben said, "I did a thorough investigation and found no proof of your claims that your wife is cheating with Denise Longfellow. As a matter of fact, I didn't find any evidence of your wife cheating at all. She and Denise are friends and nothing else. Other than hanging out, the only extracurricular activity I found your wife engaged in, besides teaching spin class, is a new acting class, which she only signed up for after I began the case. Prior to that, Denise was coaching her in acting. She then referred your wife to the acting teacher she ended up taking a class from. After interviewing the acting teacher, I learned he taught Denise years ago at the beginning of her acting career. So you see, all the dots connect. It's a classic story of a young woman who comes to Hollywood with dreams of becoming a star. All of the results are compiled in my report." Schaefer snatched the manila envelope and emptied the contents without much reaction. No smile, no frown, no sense of relief or surprise, nothing. Anything was better than a scene, though. Reuben was curious about Schaefer's buttoned-up demeanor, but not so much that he wanted to poke at it. Domestic cases were notoriously difficult when dealing with people's emotions regarding their relationships. He always saw these types of cases as a necessary evil. While clients paid a premium for them, they often counted on a certain outcome and were rarely pleased by it. Not this guy. It was almost as if he'd known there was no basis to his claim. But why spend all of that money on a lie? The waitress dropped off Reuben's Coke and turned with a wink and a swish of her hips. He smiled as if the flirtation was as natural as breathing, but his mind was still on the problem child across from him. Reuben found his behavior odd, like even for Schaefer odd. He expected the guy to argue and question his expertise as he had in the past. Instead, he fixated on the contents of that envelope. Reuben watched Schaefer flip through the papers and witnessed the moment his face changed. "Here we go," Mr. Schaefer said. "Where are the pictures?" Reuben folded his hands and said, "I told you there was no corroborating evidence. You only get pictures if they prove an actual transgression took place." Mr. Schaefer said, "That's for me to judge. I paid for all the evidence." Reuben said, "Exactly, evidence. Since there was no affair, there is no evidence." Schaefer's face looked stricken, so he added, "It's a wash, my friend. I'm not going to violate those women's privacy without due cause. It's unethical." Schaefer went back to shuffling through the papers, scanning their contents. He said, "Where did you conduct your investigations? The addresses of your surveillance sites have been removed." Reuben leaned forward and said, "Have you been listening to me? Hello?" He snapped his fingers in front of the guy's face and got his attention. "Unless it helps to verify your case, I can't reveal that information." He sat back and took a sip of his Coke. "Anyway, you should be glad to know your wife is faithful." Schaefer's face remained unreadable as he stared past Reuben at nothing in particular. If the tick in his jaw was any indication, he was cooking something up in that brain of his. After a few beats, he collected the papers and tapped them on the table before sliding them back into the envelope. Reuben said, "You'll notice the last invoices in there." Schaefer's eyes lifted to his, and Reuben sensed an edge of menace behind them. Schaefer said, "You can bill my credit card for that. Thank you for your efforts." The guy's demeanor was so calm, and yet his face had gone all splotchy and red, his anger clearly betraying him. Reuben reached across the table and patted Schaefer's shoulder to lighten the mood. Reuben said, "This might be a good time to start counting your blessings. Enjoy that pretty wife of yours." Schaefer slid out of the booth unaffected and paused, the envelope clutched in his hand. Schaefer said, "I'll take it from here." Reuben narrowed his eyes at the guy's retreating figure while he sipped his Coke. The dude was strange. He immediately swiped his phone screen and ran the guy's credit card number through his payment app. An hour and 12 miles later, Reuben parallel parked on Sunset Boulevard. The payment had gone through, which called for a celebratory drink at his favorite bar in Silver Lake. While he waited for the meter to approve his credit card, his mind picked at the nagging questions Schaefer had left in his wake. The guy had given him the creeps from the jump. The only reason he took the job was that Schaefer paid top dollar to make sure Reuben performed the investigation on his own. "No partners involved," he had said. "I want to keep this between you and me." Reuben had warned him the investigation would take longer, but Schaefer was adamant about there being no outside involvement. With his bank account several grand richer, Reuben had no intention of looking back. Going into the holidays, he found business always slumped, so the huge payday was a much-needed stroke of luck. He wouldn't have to hustle for work the rest of the year, and if he ever got up the nerve, he might make that trip to Colorado to follow up on a lead about the location of his father. Reuben had been putting it off for years now. It'd be a hell of a trip to show up on the old bastard's front step and force him to confront the son he'd never laid eyes on. The parking meter captured his attention with a loud beep. He made note of the time it would expire, programmed a reminder on his phone, and set off down the street. A flash of memory hit him, Denise biting down on his neck as he penetrated her sex. The echoing sensation, days later, made him trip over his shoes. He wished he weren't going home alone tonight. He wished he could text Annabelle about how pissed he'd been when Denise said no, yet again, to dating him. He wouldn't chance using the number he got through his investigation, though. When he arrived at the door, the bouncer slapped palms with him. They exchanged a few words, and Reuben stepped inside. His eyes strained to adjust to the dark atmosphere of the old-time speakeasy-style bar. A fair amount of patrons were enjoying happy hour served by an African-American guy sporting an unruly afro and suspenders. Reuben pitched his head back to him in greeting. Tattoos littered the bartender's dark arms and crept up his neck from the bow-tied collar of his short-sleeved shirt to his chin. Craig announced, "Here he is, the man of the hour." Several women's heads turned. "What happened to you?" Reuben said, "Finally finished that weird case I couldn't tell you about, remember?" Reuben took a seat. Craig said, "Oh, right. Looks like you made that shit your bitch." Reuben didn't have to order. A double of whiskey appeared on the bar, one big rock of ice taking up space in the middle of the tumbler. Reuben said, "It's over. That's all that matters." Craig took a tall glass from behind him, filled it with ice, and sprayed it with the soda gun until it was full. He held it up. To the next case. And making that paper. Cheers, man. Reuben clinked his glass with Craig's and downed half the whiskey. Craig said, "So how's Leah? You get tired of her yet?" Reuben shot him a look and Craig laughed. "Uh-huh, that's what I figured. Who's the new girl then?" Reuben said, "Maybe there is no new girl." Craig said, "Nah, come on, Rube. I look up to you, man. You've never let me down since I met you. What was it, 6, 7 years ago? I know you got one up your sleeve." Reuben said, "Does Kim know how bad you want out of your relationship? Because I can break the news to her." Craig said, "Please, bro, don't even play like that." He leaned in and quietly said, "She's having my baby in a couple months." Then he went back to bragging. "But what we do, man, it's just stories, so stop stalling." He drained his drink and tucked the used glass under the counter with a loud clink. Reuben looked down as he swirled the amber liquid around the ice in his glass. He considered lying. The case was over, so there was no reason he couldn't talk about her. He snickered and rubbed a hand over his stubbly facial hair. "There is someone. I haven't started seeing her, but yeah." Craig covered his mouth and growled his approval. "I knew it! What flavor is she this time?" Reuben said, "You're a pig, you know that?" The bartender laughed and swiped the counter with a wet rag. Reuben said, "This chick is..." He shook his head. "She's, I don't know, different." Craig said, "Nah, chicks are all the same." "What do you mean different?" "Only time a guy says that is when..." "Man, is it serious?" "No," Reuben said a little too quickly. "I told you, we haven't even gone out yet." Craig put a fist to his mouth, a surprised look on his face. "Are you saying she rejected the charms of LA's biggest player? Aw, dude. I guess it does happen to all of us." Reuben said, "You gotta stop worshipping false idols, man. I never claimed to be perfect. I mean, I don't claim it, but as for the ladies..." They exchanged a chuckle when another customer caught Craig's eye. Before Reuben let him off the hook, he added, "I've just begun. It's only a matter of time before she says yes. Or please." He remembered the defiant sparkle in her eye when she said that very word to him. He carried her with him still, in the teeth marks she left on his cheek when she bit down and gasped his name in orgasm. He shifted on the stool as his jeans noosed his arousal. He would never look at a washer and dryer the same way again. The 10 minutes they'd spent in that closet exceeded his wildest dreams of Denise. Their tryst had raised the bar for him. Before her, he'd never understood the appeal of pursuing a girl beyond hello and goodbye. Now he had a whole new set of rules to contend with. Her indifference toward him sweetened the pot. Sitting in this bar, in a sea of pretty young flowers, he was more concerned with picking one specific bloom and planting it deep, deep into the ground. And then what? This was the first time he had ever asked himself the question, because by now he should have banged her. But it went deeper, beyond the sex. He wanted to know what came next. He mentally swatted away those frilly notions and finished his drink. Watching the ice slide back and forth as he tilted the glass, he pondered fucking Denise, then putting this shit on repeat. Like the rest of the girls. His chest burned and he rubbed it. Must have been indigestion. He hadn't eaten dinner yet and checked his watch. He still had a couple of hours to get to the Whole Foods at the Grove. They cooked his favorite burger with fries and a glass of pink lemonade, all for one low price. The best kept secret in LA. All right, that was chapter 10. Please stay tuned. And how do you do that? You do that by hitting the subscribe button and hitting the little bell icon so you'll be notified when the next chapter comes up. And feel free to drop a comment below. That helps my algorithms, as does liking the video. So anything to help would be fabulous. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.